name is Arti Javeri, from First Robotics, Vice President of Partnerships, but also helping run the Humber College event. And really excited that we can actually be at events, and extremely excited that we're going to be at Humber, which is close, not too far from me, and from to many other teams as well. But I'll pass the mic, I guess, to Dave, and then Dave, if you can pass on the first staff on the call, and then we can, and Lynn, and then we can go from there, start from there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Jobson. I'm a mentor on 1360 Orbit in Oakville, and yeah, looking forward to finally getting back to business here.
Thanks, Dave. I think we have more than one Dave.
Oh, sorry, you were talking about Dave Ellis. Well, there you go. Sorry, Dave.
Okay. Hi, Dave Jobson.
No worries. Always glad to have another Dave on the call. So I'm Dave Ellis, and President of FRC Canada. Really excited to be on this call with all of you brave individuals who not only did an FRC team, but did an FRC team in a pandemic. So, and not only did that, but chose the first event of the season. So, you know, we're pretty excited about the event. I hope you are too. And I know there's tons of struggles out there, and that people are stressed about, you know, this early start, but I think we're all in that boat, and that's the good news. And we'll paddle the boat together. So we'll get to the end for sure. So thanks for joining us tonight for this. Hopefully it's helpful. And I'll pass it off to Karthik.
Hi everyone, I'm Karthik. I work for FRC Canada. You probably know me as like the MCs for events, and that's part of what I'll be doing at Humber. And also I've been leading our COVID task force here at FRC Canada to help us ensure that we can have the safest possible events. And I will pass it over to William.
Hello, good evening. My name is William Neal, and this is my first year as the first manager of the FRC program manager, that is. And I've been working with John Hubbins and more lately with Arti and the rest of the team preparing for the Humber event and other events. And this is my first time on the other side of an FRC event. So it's really exciting to see everyone and to be back in person after so long. So maybe we'll pass it on to Lisa.
Hello, everyone. I am the FTC program manager. I will be helping with facilitating the FRC event. Super excited to see all of you compete. And yeah, and I will pass it to Lynn.
Hi, everyone. Lynn Van Lieshout. I am the volunteer event manager for the Humber College event. So I'm just here to answer any Humber College specific questions you may have or that you might need some clarification on. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Super excited that we get to host that first event this year.
Lynn's being too humble by saying she's the volunteer coordinator. She actually manages the whole event for us and does everything for this event. So more than the volunteer coordinator. But thank you, Lynn. So I'll kind of go over our presentation today, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So let me know if you can see my slide deck now. The slide deck will also be can also be found on our website, the Humber College event website. So if you're looking for it later on, it will be there later today. We wanted to start kind of the event with safety in mind and talk about what we have in terms of safety and where we are at right now with our events. So specifically for Humber, I will pass it on to our COVID task force lead, Karthik, to kind of give a little overview about the safety at the event.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks for being here. This is, I'm so excited for events, and it's great to see faces, so many people, so many old friends that I haven't seen in so long. So this is really exciting for all of us. As you all know, at first, safety is an overriding priority. It always has been. You think about how we wear safety glasses, how we manage safety across the events. And with COVID, it's no different. We've established, we started working in the fall, actually summer in August, on what our protocols would look like for an eventual return to in-person events. And everything we designed was with an abundance of caution in mind. We knew we had to be the safest organization out there. And that was, because that's what FRC is. And so we came up with a series of protocols that'll be in effect for the event. And these are unchanging at this point. But the number one piece is we are asking that all participants have full proof of vaccination to attend the event. So everyone who's attending this event, from staff, volunteers, participants, contractors, all must be fully vaccinated and present proof of full vaccination with an enhanced vaccine certificate with the QR code. Now that could be on a phone or that could be via paper, that's fine, but everyone has to have that. To go with that certificate, you do need to have some personal identification that matches what's on your vaccine certificate. We know that most of our attendees are students. Not all students have photo ID, and that's fine. It just needs to have name and date of birth on there. And it does not need to be an original copy. If it's a photocopy of a kid's health card or a photocopy of a report card from the school that has date of birth, something, just name and date of birth. And so that's what it's going to take to get in. And when you arrive at the event, I know we're going to be talking fully about the check-in procedure, a little bit more with details or whatever, but everyone's going to be getting a wristband to allow them attendance into the event. That's way we can manage the capacity of the event, because we have to stay within guidelines. And we can also ensure that everyone has gone through this proof of vaccination, and it can facilitate re-entry and making other things simpler. So there'll be more details on that, but that's the number one big piece of safety. Number two, when it comes to fighting this pandemic, the two biggest strengths that we have are vaccination and masking. And masks will be mandatory for this event at virtually all times. Masks should always be over your nose and over your mouth, and it's going to be like safety glasses. Sometimes people forget, and then we just remind them very kindly, hey, get your mask up, get your safety glasses on. And this is a mandatory sort of thing. When it comes to, well, what do I need to do if I want to eat? We have designated eating areas, which will have increased ventilation, which will be the only place where you can eat. And if you're thinking, well, what about when I need to take a sip of a drink? I get thirsty. We understand that. And so if you do want to take a sip of a drink, you need to make sure that you are somewhere where you are clear of people. There's no people within 2 meters of you. Quickly take a sip and then put your mask back up. But this applies for everyone. National anthem singers, I'm going to be wearing a mask out there on the field emceeing for the whole day. And we're going to lower sound levels in the event so people can hear each other a little bit better, so people aren't feeling the need to shout through their masks. But it's a thing we're doing because we know it's the way that we can ensure that people are safe. And so those are our main safety protocols. We have 28 pages of documents that list all our protocols for our events. I do recommend that, lead mentors of teams read through these. You can find them at firstroboticscanada.ca/COVID-19. And I know the links are on the Humber, on all these web pages that we've been sending you to. But make sure you take a look at them so you're not surprised by anything on there. And happy to take any questions about this specifically, or we can wait till the end of I was going to say the end of the show. I'm so used to doing First Canada Live, end of the meeting. All right. Well, then I will pass it back to Artie.
Thank you, Karthik. And Dave's put the link into the chat for the COVID safety protocols. So thank you, Dave. Move to the next slide. This just gives you an overall view of the event, what to be ready for prior to the event and really at the event. And prior to the event, which is where we are now, a week and a half away from the event, making sure you understand the capacity limits. Most of you have responded to me with your team roster and attendance. For those that haven't, can you please have them to me by tomorrow? We do need to create a registration process in place, and it really helps for us to have the team roster and attendance in advance. And as you know, there's a capacity limit for the events, which we'll talk about, but I'll go into, so there's different things that you would need to prep for before the event, which is what we're talking to you about today. And then we'll also give you a snippet about what to expect at the event when you're at the event. So capacity limit, I think we've said 15 team members in total. This would include students, parents, mentors, teachers, anybody that you want from your team to come to the event. A total number of 15 people should be on that attendance list. So that it's very important that the names are on that attendance list as well as on the roster. It just avoids delays in going and passing through the registration line. It's not the days where you can come and stand at the door and kind of get entry into the event. Unfortunately, there will be a screening process and then a registration. So there will be a kind of a lineup system to get into the venue, and the team attendance will really help us speed up people getting into the pits or getting into the stands, as well as getting into your load-in times that were scheduled for the event. Like Karthik mentioned, it is a wristband entry. So everybody will have a wristband that comes into the event. there are different color wristbands for each day. So there's we'll know basically which day you're at, and you'll be able to identify that too. If you're there for both days, we'll give you a second wristband. Entrances and processes. So most of you know the address, should know the address. It's 205 Humber College Boulevard. We have a parking spot in lot 10. Lynn, please correct me or interrupt me if you need to pitch in for anything here, but parking lot 10 is what is blocked for teams, for your trailers and for cars to park, which is not too far from the main entrance of the event. The entry points, so we do have 2 entry points. One is located in between building A and C. And we'll show you the map when we get to the load-in pieces. And then you're loading in typically opposite building A, which for some teams that have been to Humber, it's the same area, but just the screening and registration is just behind the building where you'll be loading in. So we'll show you that when we go through the map in a few minutes. Judging and awards. Most teams know by now that all the judging is done remotely. All of you have received your chairman's interview timings and your dean's list interview timings, as well as PIT interviews. So the PIT interviews are very new. A lot of teams did chairman's and dean's list last year virtually. PIT interviews are very new for teams this year, and it's all being done virtually. For the Humber event, the interviews are scheduled to be on Monday, February the 28th, and Wednesday, March the 2nd. So if you don't have an email, or if you're not sure what your time is, please reach out to me and I can send you the timings again, or if you're unsure of it. But it's really important that you know that date and time and that your team is prepared to be at that interview on those 2 dates. I will pass it on to Dave to talk a little bit about the next couple of slides.
Sure. So we have a few changes this year. Obviously, as you can expect with the pandemic, there's always changes to what the normal is. So one of those changes is a virtual drivers meeting. So typically, if you're a rookie, the drivers meeting would happen on the floor, on the field, on the day of the event in the morning. We're going to do a virtual drivers meeting Thursday, March 3rd at 6 p.m. So with a similar format to what we're doing here over Zoom. One of the nice things with this is that we'll be able to have questions submitted ahead of time. So if you'd like to, there's going to be an email sent to you to pose some questions. Our FTA, head ref, and lead robot inspector will be on the call to be able to answer those questions. If you don't get the questions sent in ahead of time, you can always ask them on the call as well, but it gives them a bit of a heads up, and especially if there's anything tricky that they need to check with headquarters, it's always nice to give them some lead time on that. So that's next Thursday, March 3rd, 6 p.m. Another difference is the robot inspections. So normally your robot inspections would happen completely at the event. This time we're asking you to download the robot inspection from the link there, and maybe somebody can put it in chat for us, or I'll do it afterwards. And it's a checklist that you have to fill out. You bring it to the event with you and share it with the lead robot inspectors. And then from there, they'll be able to use a simplified robot inspection form that will speed up the process, and having that done ahead of time will be really, really helpful. It's also really good for you as a team, obviously, to go through that robot inspection. We were saying on First Canada Live on Tuesday, it's good to do that more than once, do it through the build process so that you're inspecting kind of as you go to make sure that things are working appropriately. On the next slide, it's a little bit hard to read unless you have a big screen, but I'll try and cover this for you. So this is a typical day for us at the event. If you are showing up for day 1, then day 0, the day before, we will have team load in open from 6:30 to 8:30. And that was covered a little bit with Artie, and I'll show you on the next slide, or 2 slides from now, the map, and we'll get into that in a little bit of detail. But team load-ins from 6:30 to 8:30. Again, you'll be assigned a time slot in there to show up. So please try and stick to that time slot so that we can make sure that there's good social distancing as people are coming in and it's not too crowded. The inspections are available that night as well. So if you load in the night before and you have time, your robot's ready to go, you can get inspected, which saves you time the next day for sure, and saves us time as well. So that's super helpful if that's possible. If you're not ready, the inspection can happen the next day as well. But ideally, have it the night before if you're loading in that night. Pits do close at 9 o'clock that night, and we're looking for an early start on day one of the event. Well, both days, so day one or day two, doesn't really matter which day. It'll be kind of the same timeline there. So an early load in. So if you weren't able to load in the night before, you can start in as early as 6:45. We'll have coffee on tap for our volunteers, and hopefully we'll be able to make it through the day. Pits open at 7:15. And that's when robot inspections will begin as well. So if you loaded in the night before, you can show up at 7:15 and you can start doing things. If you've got your robot inspected already from the night before, then at 7:15 you can jump into the pits and start working on your robot if you need to. The field will be open day one and day two at 7:45, and it'll be open for about 45 minutes to allow you to do field measurements and calibrations and just make sure that you're connecting to the field. There will be another short driver's meeting at 8 o'clock. Again, it shows us 15 minutes there, so it's pretty quick. It'll be kind of last minute details, anything that came up between the meetings or anything that wasn't answered at the online meeting that needs to be addressed. It'll be done during that time. And typically, like I said, it would be done on the field, but this year we're going to have teams in the stands, and our mics will be the volunteer ready, and they'll be able to answer your questions from that standpoint. So instead of coming down onto the field. At 8:15, the match schedule is going to be generated. So you need to make sure that you have your team on site by 8:15, because if we can't generate the match schedule until everybody's there. But we also have a very, very tight timeline, as you can see in the rest of the schedule. So at 8:15, we're going to be running that match schedule. If you're not there, you unfortunately won't be able to compete that day. So if you show up at 8:20, that'll be unfortunate. 8:30, practice matches start, and opening ceremony starts at 9:15. And following opening ceremonies, which is going to be really short, 9:30, we have our first round of qualification matches. And as you can see, the pattern is pretty straightforward. There's about an hour, just under an hour for those 6 matches. And then there's going to be a little bit of a break for half an hour, and then another round of matches, and then another break for half an hour, and so on. That carries us through the day. So that we'll have our 5 rounds of matches. And after that, we go right into our break for strategy for alliance selection. And so for those that are new on the call, new to the to FIRST, there's an alliance selection. So originally you're competing in groups of 3, and those groups of 3 are randomized throughout the day. You're playing with people in one match and you're competing against them possibly in the next match. And then for the playoffs, you are set into a team of 3 that stays that team of 3 for the rest of the playoffs. We'll get into that process in a second, but essentially it's going to be a selection process, and there's some time that is needed before that to think about what you want to do with your alliance selection. The actual selection process is going to start at 3:40. It's very brief, 15 minutes, and then there's another break after that once the alliances have been set. And that's there for you, again, to start strategizing with your new alliance, because you'll have a robot maybe that does a high climb, the final climb, and someone maybe just does the low climbs, and you have to work out those logistics. Then playoffs will start at 4:30. They run for an hour and a half. We're only doing semifinals and finals this year, so it will not be 8 alliances doing selection as we normally do. Again, everything's different this year. So it's going to be 4 teams doing semifinal alliance selections, and then the top 2 alliances will face off in the finals. We'll have closing ceremonies, which will be brief this year, 6 to 6:30. And at that point, we're going to be covering the Dean's List, not the Dean's List, the Woody Flowers nominees and past Woody Flowers finalists, and the alliance winning alliance and the finalists alliances, and they'll be receiving their awards on field. So everything else is going to be judged previous to the event, and then done at First Canada Live later on. We're going to go on Tuesday. We're going to go to the next slide. And on the next slide is just a really quick graphic about the alliance selection. I'm not sure if we have rookies on the call or not, but if there's any coaches that haven't been involved in this past, even if your team is not a rookie, but you are, just a quick idea of how this works. And there's a link there on the side for where this is found in the FRC game manual. So you can, not this image, but the rules behind this. The really high level concept is that the top 4 teams, in this case, again, normally it would be 8 teams, but in this case, we're whittling it down just the top 4 teams, will be brought out onto the field, and the MC, who we love, so I used a heart for that one, will be meeting with the first team and asking them, who are you going to select as your first alliance partner? They will select from any team at the event, including second place, third place, fourth place, and then that team will come in and have the option to accept or decline. If they accept, then everybody in that order shifts up a bit. So in this example here, if number 1 picked number 2, then number 3 and 4 would move up 1 position, and number 5 would come onto the field as another picking captain. And the reason I bring that up is because you may be 8th, for example, and think, oh, well, we don't have to strategize about our pick list because we're only an 8th, we're not a picker. You may end up moving into that pick list option or picking option. And so you need to have that ready. So just to be prepared for that. I think it's a good process for everybody to do a pick list, regardless if you're 18th or 1st. It's a good process for the kids to be involved in. And you definitely want to make sure that the person that's going up on the field has a good idea about what your pick list is, and you have a communication process for making sure that they know how to cross off teams that get picked, and they have backups for all of your selections in case those options disappear from them on the field. It's very nerve-wracking for those kids if they're up there and they don't know what to do. So a good communication process is important. I think we can go on to the next slide. And I think we skipped one. Maybe. There's one on parking. Oh. There we go. So registration and load-in, Artie already mentioned the address, so 205 Humber College. And the parking is relatively straightforward. So you can see in there that the competition area is building A. Building or lot 10 is where we are asking people to park for load-in, and it's free on Friday night for us. If that is full, there are other parking lots, but you have to pay for them. On Saturday and Sunday, all the parking lots are free, and so you can park anywhere at that point. On the right-hand side of this slide, you've got Highway 27. So there's these are some tips. So Highway 27 is full of construction and has heavy traffic right now. So if you can, try and avoid that. If you are coming from Highway 27, you're going to be using entrance A and B. And if you are coming from 427 and Finch, you're going to use entrance E and D on the map. Cars and trailers are going to lot 10 for parking. And I think that's about it. There's an indication on the map there for registration and screening. So that's all going to be done between A and C there.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I think just to reiterate, like when you come into the venue, you're going to go to the doors between building A and C. That's where you're doing all your registration, your screening, all of that happens there. And then the driver of the car or your trailer can actually just turn around to building A entrance, and you can then have your load-in happening there. So I don't know if that made sense, but everybody show up between doors A and C. That's where your registration will happen, screening will happen. That's where you're going to show your QR code. We've actually put also a screening app. The Humber College has a screening app. So if you could download that screening app and have it ready, that would be awesome. It would just help us in the screening process. If you don't, for example, have a phone or your student doesn't own a phone, they will be asking questions verbally, but the app definitely speeds up the process because you can just show the app on your phone and you can enter. You have to remember that everybody that's coming through those doors have to be on the team attendance list, because once you pass your screening, we will do registration for you, which is where you will get your wristband. And we'll be checking through your attendance list to make sure that you're the person on the attendance list, and then get you the wristband. So it's important that the member that's coming to the event is on the team attendance list. Again, like Dave mentioned, the doors AC is very important to remember for registration and screening. And then whoever's driving the car or the robot can just turn around, go to A entrance and drop off their robot there. The students will be coming through, the people that are coming to help with load-in can walk straight through. They don't have to go all the way around the building. They can walk in through the building and then just help your mentor pick up the robot. So you don't have to all go around. It's just the driver that would have to take the robot around the building. Again, just a reminder that there's only 5 members in total for load-in. That includes 1 adult, and you are requested not to leave your car parked there. So the driver must be available at all times in the car. Don't leave the car unattended because there is a flow of teams coming in and out. So really appreciate if the driver is in the car and able to just offload and then go and park the car. On competition days, everybody would enter, like if you've finished your load in and you don't need to load in anymore, everybody would just load in from the doors between A and C, which is where you would do on load in day as well. Go to the next slide.
Sorry, Artie, one more thing about load-in. It's just that when it comes to screening, so just to reiterate again, you have to go through screening before you can do load-in. And at those doors, we will have staff there. You can let us know that you are there for load-in, and you will get priority to get screened, so we can get you out of that area, get you your wristband so you can do your load-in.
Very good point. And that really applies for the Saturday morning, especially, or the Sunday morning, because you'll have teams lining up, wanting to go into the stands or the pits. But if you are loading in on that day, that entrance is the same. So we'll have a separate line for teams loading in, and our staff will, like Lisa said, will keep checking to see if there are anybody that's loading in and wanting their wristbands to enter the event.
Do you want to take questions at all?
Yeah, we could stop for a bit and take some questions maybe, and then move on.
Well, there's a couple questions in the chat already. The first question was, does everyone, I lost it for a second. Does everyone on the attendance list have to be on a team roster?
Yes, typically at any given event, anybody that's coming to an event, FRC event, should be on your roster, on your team roster. So yes, they need to be on the roster.
And the next question from Bill Van Hout is, do we know what load-in time we have?
Yes, the email for the load-in time confirmation hasn't gone out. Everybody's requested a load-in time. The email confirmation for load-in time will go out tomorrow, so you'll have your final time tomorrow. Most of you have got your first preferences, but there might be a few that have got your second preferences. So we've tried to accommodate your first preference as much as possible.
Does anyone else have any other questions that haven't been asked in chat? Feel free to unmute and ask, or if you feel more comfortable, just type it away in chat and we can handle it there.
Hi, the other Dave again here. Just for load-in, so because I'm going to be bringing the trailer up and everything on Saturday morning, so we will pull up at the AC entrance first to check in, and then I just park on the street. Everybody goes into the AC entrance, and then once I'm checked in, then I drive around the back.
Yes, and Lynn's on the call too. I don't know, Lynn, if you want to address that. Just on the call.
I'm here. Hang on. I just have to turn things on. My dogs are having a fight in the background, so I'm sorry. I'm in a meeting. They must start now. So yeah, basically what we're suggesting is people sort of pull up to the AC doors, and I believe, I'm sorry, it has a big sign athletics, which is the door you're sort of looking for. And if you're turned around the right way, you should just be able to drive right around the building. And then we'll have signage there so you can see where you need to unload. And then once you unload, you just sort of continue down the road. Okay, and my phone, good God. And and then you can sort of spin around and then go into parking lot 10 afterwards. So it looks harder than it is, but it's pretty straightforward once you get there and you see it. And for those of you that come in off of Highway 27, if that's the route 427 or
Highway 27.
Highway 27. I have been told that that's a nightmare, just so that you know. So we're suggesting that everybody do 427 if you can do it. I was on a meeting with somebody yesterday and he was stuck at the lights to turn for 20 minutes just to get onto Humber College Boulevard. So if there's any way you can avoid it, however that happens to be, they're putting in the LRT there. So there's a lot of, the entire area is down to one lane and there's a lot of traffic on 27. So just something to keep in mind so you don't lose your marbles. I mean, it'll be early in the morning, so it'll likely be all of you lined up behind each other at that time, but you never know.
Thanks. And they can double park there just when they get off AC, right? For a minute.
Oh God, yeah, there'll be nobody else around. It won't matter. So they can just sort of go in a line if they want in order to do that. Okay. Yeah, it'll only be us there at that hour of the morning.
Another question from chat from Godfredo is, are we doing any sort of pit setup Friday night, or is it just drop the stuff into the pits and leave?
Yeah, everybody has, just like any other event, you'll have 1 hour in the pits on the Friday, on the load-in day. Obviously, the teams that are coming in the morning of the event, since you're coming at 6:45 and pit doors open at 7:15, the 5 members that are already there just stay throughout the event. But on Friday or on the Saturday night, if you're loading in the previous day, you'll have 1 hour of load-in time. And whatever you can do in that 1 hour is what you would have.
And I also think it's worth remembering, folks, that, you know, this year, all the judging is happening virtually. It's like, it's all happening virtually. So you don't need to, you know, you might not want to bring the elaborate setups that you would have for judging and everything in your pit to simplify the process for the single day event, you know? So there's no rules on it or whatever, but it just might be easier for everyone if teams travel a little bit light and just focused on robot and tools.
I have a question. It's Rob Peters. Just wondering, I've got a number of people on my roster that won't be attending the event. Do I need to mark them as unprintable or just send in the roster and it's
just
fine?
send in it the way it is. As long as the names are on there, we'll be fine.
Okay.
The attendance list is the one, Rob, where you can just only have 15. Yep. So if you don't need to do any extra work on the team roster.
Okay, great.
I've got a question. Since 43, 43, and 914 are going to Humber, but different days, can 43, 43's robot be loaded in on Friday night, the same time as the 914?
Unfortunately, no, Christina, because we only have the spaces for the pits and the space available for the team that's attending that event that day. And I think I got 2 different load-in times for 43, 43, and 914. Okay. But no, unfortunately, it'll have to be the 2 separate days.
Okay, thank you.
Problem. See, William has his hand raised.
Yes, I'm just getting a question on behalf of a team with respect to paper versions of the consent and release. As far as I understand, it's all being done electronically, or is it possible to do the paper?
It is possible to do the paper because there are some parents maybe that can't give a consent on or don't have the capacity to give consent on on a computer. So it's okay to totally give your consent on paper forms. As long as those paper forms are submitted with your roster, that's good for us. Good. So you can scan the roster and all the paper consent forms like you would do when you would come to pit admin and hand them over. It's the same process. You could definitely do that.
Good, thank you. That's yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll move to the next slide. We do have, so this again is just for information and just so you know what to be prepared for. The practice field timings for Saturday and Sunday are listed here. The practice field will not be available on the Friday. It will only be available on the Saturday all day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And obviously it's like in the past, you would have to sign up for a time. 6:30 to 8:30, there are some teams that are competing on both days of the event. Typically, the teams that would leave the venue could go back and do more work on your robot or do some more practice sessions in your school or in your community area. For the teams that are actually going to be at the event, they won't have that ability. So the practice field will be open for them from 6:30 to 8:30 at the event. So they'd have that there. For the Sunday teams, for the Sunday practice field will be open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And again, just the machine shop timing, so you're aware of what that looks like for all the days. So again, just an overall reminder, this is kind of, I think, our last slide here, just an overall reminder of what's going on to happen next week. And it's a busy week. Monday is your PIT interviews next week. Tuesday is just First Canada Live. So if you're available and you would like to watch us, tune into First Canada Live. On Wednesdays is again your second PIT interview. So all teams that have been interviewed on Monday will be re-interviewed on Wednesday. Monday, you're following the HQ guidelines for the PIT interview. It's 10 minutes of presentation followed by 15 minutes of Q&A or time with the judges. And on Wednesday, the interview time can be between 10 to 15 minutes. It's a very casual, you don't need to prepare anything for the Wednesday meeting. You're just going to be, it's just a Q&A with the judges and just a conversation about your team. On the Thursday, there is a virtual drivers meeting that Dave spoke about. So that's happening at 6 o'clock on the Thursday. And then Friday, for teams that are competing on Saturday, your load-in would begin on Friday or Saturday morning, and really the competition, and then you'd kind of load out, and the same follows for Sunday. We have load-in on Saturday, and then the competition day on Sunday, and then final load-out. The only one thing I think we'd like to remind everybody is it is 2 busy days. So we'd really appreciate for teams like kind of exiting 6:30 on time so that we are able to bring in the next set of teams in. So really appreciate teams kind of getting, and that to Karthik's point, you don't need elaborate pits because the judging is not happening. So maybe thinking simplistic and bringing things that you can really compactly bring into the event and bring out of the event with minimum number of people would be great. Lastly, so this is the last slide. Team spaces. So like I think Karthik mentioned earlier, we do have lunch areas designated for teams. Thanks to Humber, they've opened up a lot of team classrooms for us. So we will be assigning teams a lunch area in some of the classrooms. There's maybe 2 teams per classroom. So we will have that, and that's really awesome that you can have that space there. There will be a quiet room available also at the event. Just some cool reminders. We are not allowing eating in the pits or in the competition areas. So if you are bringing in pizza boxes or anything, they can go straight to your lunchroom and you can have your lunches there, and then respectfully, keep the garbage away. No buffets or warmers or crock pots in those areas. Those are classrooms. And so we'd like to respect the space that we're in. And just overall demonstrating our gracious professionalism that we do to our host venue, I think is the final words. But I think overall, I can open up to more questions. That's kind of overall the presentation we had for you today. We can't wait to see you at the event. So wishing you all good luck. I know some of you have lots to do still, and some of you are ready. So looking forward to seeing all those robots and all the students really. I know it'll be hard to see each other in the masks, but we'll try and recognize all of you through your eyes, I guess. I'm going to stop sharing and then open it up again to questions.
So there's a couple questions here. I can take the first one. Is there power available in the pit? Do we need lots of power cables? Yes, Ram's a rookie, so you're new to this, but there's a full power drop in your pit. And you will need to bring cables, extension cords to make sure that you can power your tools and the such. And so be prepared and charge your batteries and that sort of thing. So really recommend that you bring some power cables and more than a few extension cords so you can get all your stuff plugged in there. But I believe it's a 15 amp circuit, right, Artie? So yes, it powers teams of power drill presses and lathes in there. So you're not going to be short of power unless you're doing something really weird, which we would prefer that you don't do. Will you be sharing video feed links for virtual watching of the event and possible match scouting? Absolutely. This event, it will be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Artie, we streamed on twitch.tv/firstcanada.
That's right.
And we may have a couple views as well, which would be on other channels that we'll tell you about at the time. But you can go to twitch.tv/firstcanada, and that's where you'll be able to watch. And that same link is where you would go on Tuesday night for the awards announcements, which will be at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. So twitch.tv/firstcanada is your go-to for that. Are there any other questions? And while people are thinking of questions, I think I just want to remind everyone that the day is different. Absolutely. It's a shorter day. And so teams need to be prepared for a couple different things. Number one is that matches at times will be at a bit of a breakneck pace. You may be in actual back-to-back matches, which never used to be possible when you had more teams. With only 18, or I guess 16 or 17 teams at this event, there's definitely a chance for that. So you need to make sure your batteries are charged and you're ready to go for that circumstance. And also just understand that, before it was like you would go to your first day, then you would regroup, you'd make a pick list in the evening, and then you come the next day for alliance selection, except it's all happening on one day. So your scouts should be working away on that pick list. Maybe some of them are offsite helping virtually, like was just suggested, but to be really prepared for that, because things are going to move quickly. You know how sometimes at our traditional events, it'd be lunchtime. And it's like, oh, we've only played 3 matches. Like here, it's going to be like, you might've played 6 of your 9 matches at that point. So it's going to be fast and furious, which is going to be fun, but it's going to be fast. Also, for folks, if you have other questions, you know, that just you want information from other teams, help with your robots, that sort of thing, we have this great First Ontario Team Support Slack. And I think Dave's going to drop a link into the chat. So, or maybe Lisa will beat him to it, because that's sometimes how these things happen. It's just been a really, really great resource. Teams helping teams, troubleshooting about, you know, how do we best build our field? How do we weld belts together? Anything you can think of, it'd be a really good place, especially Ram for you as a mentor of a rookie team. I think there's a lot of great knowledge to get in there, sourced from our community, because everyone's just so helpful of each other.
And I
Lisa,
know
yes.
there were some questions around eateries at Humber. I don't know. I know Lynn's putting some comments around that, but maybe she can, comment.
Yeah, I just sent out a message to the catering team too, just to see whether or not they'll confirm with me that they'll be open. But normally when we've run the event, there's a small food emporium thing right across from the gym called the Hawk's Nest. And they have pizza and Tim's coffee and sandwiches and snacks and different things there that you can grab if that's what you're interested in. I'll just double check to verify for sure that they'll be open Saturday and Sunday, because I think on one of the events they forgot to staff it for Sunday. And I know that our Tim Hortons right now is under construction. I do believe at the front of the college, Starbucks will be open as well. So if somebody's a Starbucks fan, you may be able to score your coffee. But I can double check for sure and get a list of all the various things that'll be open. That's weekend. You guys are the first big event that we will be hosting this year. So it's the first time everything is going to get open again. So I think everyone's super excited to feel like they're coming back to campus and getting things going again. So I'll double check and make sure what's open, and I can send something out to the first team so they can send it out to everybody.
Thanks, Lynn. And I see
Thanks.
Dave's hand raised.
Dave Jobson.
Yeah, thanks. Just so if somebody on the attendance list is sick or for whatever reason can't show up, can we just drop someone else in like day of, as long as they're on the team roster? Is that how that is kind of being handled? If that made sense.
So somebody would actually not, somebody who's sick cannot come, and now you want to replace that with somebody else, right?
Right. Yeah. So somebody who we submit on the attendance list is unable to make it. And can we just drop someone else in last minute as long as they're on the team roster, basically?
Yeah, our preference would be that they would, like, obviously that the people that are on the list can come. If you do have a change, it'd be a lot of work for us to get done at the back end and arrange for replacements. But if there is something like an emergency like that, then yeah, if you can send that information to maybe myself and Lisa, that would be awesome. But the preference is that because there's a lot of paperwork at the back end to prepare for us to get to Humber and also to give to Humber. So I think it's important that we can try as much as possible to stick. And if only there's an emergency, we'll kind of work. If we can keep it at that, that would be awesome from our end.
Okay, thank you.
First day, that person would have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
Lisa just dropped her email into chat. So if you do need to adjust your list, Lisa's the one who's pulling all that stuff together, so she can get at that right away.
And for the recording, if you miss my email, it's on the First Canada website under staff.
And we'll put this recording on our, maybe on the Humber website that we have created for the event, so you can access it through there. You'll find it under Humber event agenda and logistics. We'll have it on that page. So if you'd like to click there to re-listen to us, that would be awesome. All right, I'm going to stop recording. I don't think there are any more questions.